So for that development has designed for four different developers like task 1, task 2, task 3, and task 4. Okay. And task 1 is like independent, and task 2, 3, and 4 are dependent on the task 1. And so in order to solve this one, there are two situations. That is, the first one is like all the four developers need to do their own task code. Other Okay, otherwise, and the second option is like since task 2, 3, 4 are dependent on the task 1 code, so they had to wait for the task 1 code completion, and they can go for reusing that task 1 code, and they can continue with the remaining part of the code. Okay, so what do you think? Which one is better? Yes, obviously the second one is better. That is, they can wait for the task 1 code completion and they can reuse that code. Okay, reuse that code and they can go for further development in their own task. So that saves the resource required for that project development, time, space, okay, effort. So these are all going to saved in the case of the second option. So that we can achieve with the help of function concept in the Python. Okay, so let me go for defining the function. Let's define the function. What this function means? A set of statements. A set of statements to do a particular task. A set of statement to do a particular task. Okay, that we can define it as a set of statement to do a particular task. Say, for example, what are the advantages? Let's go for advantages of functions. So it will give you the modularity in your program. It will give you the modularity into your program. See, in order to go on writing the number of lines one by one, okay, if we make the group of statements or a set of statements into one entity under the function concept, okay, so it will enhance the modularity for the program. If we keep the well modularity, so it will be easy for the maintainability of the program. Maintainability, maintainability of the program. So if any error comes later, so we can easily fix that error into that particular function part. Okay, easy to debug the code later. Okay, and as I told, the main advantage is reusability of the code. Reusability of the code. That is, once you have defined certain set of statements, okay, you can go for calling the same function number of times. Okay, no need to write the same code again and again. Okay, that is, we can go for reusing that same code again and again. So there comes one more advantage, that is we can reduce the code duplication. Reduce the code duplication. So instead of writing the same line of code again and again, so we can make a certain set called the function. So thereby we can reduce the code duplication. So that will enhance the maintainability of the application, and it will give modularity of the application. Okay, and the one more advantage is like a complex problem can be solved easily. Problem can be solved easily. As I as I explained in that real-time example, so that like whole project divided into the number of tasks. Okay, so then thereby using the resource efficiently in order to do the different tasks of that project. Okay, the complex problems divided into a simple problems there. Then that simple problems assigned for the each developers. So thereby, in the well manner, they are going to use the resource of the company. So that is the one more advantage of the making the functions in the application. Okay, so then so let's go for how we can define the function in the Python. Let's discuss the syntax. Okay, so in what way we can write the function in the Python. So for that, the syntax is define, then function name in the parenthesis. We can make the parameters, then colon, Then in the next line, indentation, nothing but a certain number of spaces. Okay, a block of code, a block of code to be executed, a block of code to be executed, any number of lines that. Okay, okay. Then the return statement, return expression. Okay, so this is the syntax to define the functions in the Python. So let me go for explaining these each of these words here. DEF, it is a keyword here. Okay, so what is keyword? It's a predefined word which has certain specific meaning in the programming languages. So in the DEF is also a keyword in the Python to define the function. Then the function name. Okay, so it is user defined. User can give any name for his function. Okay, so the same rules we have to follow just like the identifier's name. So I hope you know the rules we need to follow while giving the identifier's name. So what are the rules? Like we can use the lowercase letter, uppercase letter, numbers, and only the underscore sign is allowed. Okay. And the second rule is at the first place, we cannot write the number for the function name or any identifier name. Then it should not be a keyword. Okay, so identifiers should not be a keyword. It must not be a predefined word in the Python. Okay, then it is case sensitive. What is case sensitive? The uppercase letters and the lowercase letters are treated differently. Okay, and it is better to take the relevant name for the function. Say for example, we are writing the function for adding two numbers. So it will be better to take the function name as sum add like that. Okay, so these are the rules while giving the function name. Then in the parenthesis, we should give the parameters. These are the input for the function. Okay. So input for the functions, here we are going to define the variables. Okay. So those variables uh, are going to have the input values there. So those are called the parameters. Then after the parenthesis, colon. Okay, so we should keep the colon. Then in the next line, there should be some number of spaces. In Python, it will call it as a, we will call it as a indentation. See, just like if you are aware of some other programming languages, there we are going to make a block of code with the help of the curly braces. Similarly, instead of curly braces, Python is using the indentation. Indentation is very important in the Python. Okay, if we miss a very single space also, we are going to get the error later. Okay, so indentation, a block of code is represented with the same number of spaces before the lines. All the lines having the same indentation belongs to the say that particular entity. Here, if I want to write the 3 lines of code for this function, all the 3 lines should have the same number of indentation before. Okay, then the whatever the set of statements you want to keep it for that function that you can write inside that function body. Okay, so this we call it as a function definition. Okay, and this we call it as a function definition. This is function header and this is the function body. And at the last, we can keep the some return statement. Okay, so if we want to return some value from that function, we can go for using this predefined word called return. Okay, so the expression you can return a value, any type of value from this function. Okay, so this is the function syntax in the Python. Okay, I hope you're clear with this one. So let's go for an example in the IDE. So for all of my Python examples, I'm going to use the PyCharm IDE. Okay, so let me go for this. Okay, here, right, go for new and Python file. So let me create one file. Okay, so let me define one simple function. Okay, def, let's say one is my function. And here, so let me go with without parameters. Okay, just I'm keeping the empty parenthesis. Okay, after that colon, then I want to print some message on the screen. Okay, let's take it as hello world. Okay, yeah. So I'm keeping very simple function. See here, I'm not taking any parameters. I'm not writing any written expression. Both are optional. You can or you may skip. Okay, here I'm skipping. Okay, then, so let me run this. See, am I getting any like errors? No, I'm writing the code correctly. No errors. Then,
No, you can
but
go
I'm not getting any output like hello world on the screen, right? Why? Because after the function definition, we should call the function. Otherwise, we won't get the output of the function on the screen. So must and should, we should call that function in order to make that function to execute. Okay, how to call that function? The function call syntax is okay. Function call syntax is whatever the function name you have defined and with parameters. So this is how we can call that function. So here I can call it as fun. Since I have defined it as fun, so I can call it like this. Let's run. So now we can able to see the output of that function, that is hello world is getting printed on the console. Okay. That thing, what we have discussed, the function definition and the function call. See, what if I miss this indentation? Okay, I will not keep this indentation. Okay, see, already IDE is showing you the error with the red underline there. Okay, that is the advantage of IDE. Okay, integrated development environment, it will make the development process easier. Okay, here it is already. See, if I run this, see on the console also you will get the error name. What is that error name? Indentation error. Okay, I'm missing that indentation. I'm violating the rule of the function definition in the Python. So what I should do here, keep a indentation. Then what if I miss this colon? Run. Again, you will get the syntax error. That is, I'm missing that colon. Okay. So that all we should keep in mind. One thing. The one more thing we need to check here is, see what I will remove this line here. Okay. So before the function definition, let me call that function. Okay. Anyway. Okay. So is it possible? No. See, again we are getting the error name error. One is not defined because when the compiler comes for the first line, so it is saying the function calling. But where is that function calling? After calling, we are defining that function. So therefore, it is getting like it is showing the error there. Okay, so what is the point? We can call the function after defining the function in the program. Okay, so here I cannot call that one. So in the next line, okay, come out of the indentation. So when you come out of the indentation, it will treat it as a next line in the program. Okay, here I can call that function. Okay, one thing. So I hope you clear with this much. Then let's go for a function with parameters. Okay, so let's go for a function with parameters. So let me remove this one. For that, let me define one function called add. Okay, so let me take the two parameters there. Parameters are nothing but the variables. Okay, so for this, I'm going to return. So instead of return, first let's go step by step. Print. I just want to print the sum as A plus B. Okay. So in order to call this function, to come out of the indentation, call that function name. Okay. So here I can pass the parameters. Okay. Here, like the values for that function. I should give the inputs for that function. Let's take it as 3 and 5. Okay. I want to add the numbers 3 and 5. Okay. So run it. the sum becomes 8 there. So the same function, that is the advantage of the function. The same function, I will call it for the different numbers like 6 and 7. So, sorry, it is add. Okay. So the sum is 13 there. That is the reusability. That is the application advantage of the function. I'm reusing that function for different inputs, right? Yeah. So here I'm giving the input in the function call. Okay. So then in the syntax, we have discussed one more thing, that is return statement in the function body, right? So that also we can do. Instead of printing here, what we can do, I can go for return statement. So we have seen the syntax like return expression, right? So return, I want to return A plus B. Okay. So where it will return to the place where it was called. So here we are calling add 3 and 5. Here it will return. So here we need to catch that value, no? So to catch that value, what I will do, I will create one more variable called sum here. Okay. So after catching, let me print that sum. Okay. So let me print that sum. Similarly, so let me make one more variable like S1. Okay. So in order to see this one, again, let me call that print S1. Okay. So this the same answer we are getting, but what we are doing here, from the function, we are returning the value there. Okay. I hope you're getting. Yeah. So here we can return the expression. Otherwise, what we can do, here itself, I can make certain expression like A plus B. Okay. I can return the variable. Yes. Okay. That is also possible. That also we can do. Okay. Yeah. So that is with the function definition and the function call. Let's go for next topic in the function. That is one more thing I need to convey here is the inputs, the variables that I have defined in this function definition are called the parameters. Okay. The variables I'm going to use in the function call, these are called as the arguments. Arguments. Okay. So let me write it. Okay. What is parameter? Parameter is a variable defined in the function definition. Okay. And what is argument? What is argument? Argument is in the function call. What are the, if the variables that we are using in the function call are the arguments, the variables that we are using in the function definition are called the parameters. Okay. And the thing is, like the number of parameters and arguments should match. Okay. The next topic we need to discuss is types of argument in the Python. Okay. Types of arguments. So actually there are 4 types. The first one is required, or we can call it as a positional, or we can call it as a positional argument. And the second one is keyword arguments. Keyword arguments. And the third one is default argument. And the fourth one is variable length arguments. Okay. So these are the 4 types of arguments we have in the Python. So let's try to discuss one by one. Okay, let's start with the required arguments or the positional argument. So what are called the required arguments means these are the arguments which are required to be passed in the function call. Okay, so the at the time of function call, we have to pass this number of arguments to the function. Okay, have to pass. Okay, so let me show you an example. Let's take define. Let's go for the difference of the two number A, B. Okay, so it will going to print A minus B. Okay, then call that function. So let me call this function with 2, 3. Okay, I want to get the difference of 2 and 3. So let me run this. So you will get the answer minus 1. So here, why we are calling the required arguments means, see, if I call this function with only one argument, okay, that is 6, run, you will get the error. Missing one required positional argument. Okay, so this function is requiring the 2 arguments. Okay, but you are passing only one. So there you will get the error. That we call it as a required arguments. Otherwise, so as I showed you earlier, 2, 3. Okay, so already we have seen this one, it is minus 1. So instead of calling like this, okay, so if I call difference like 3, 2. Yes, we are getting the different results there. Okay, that is nothing but the positional argument. We have to maintain the position of arguments. If I want to get the difference of 2 minus 3, that position we have to maintain while calling that function. Okay, that for that purpose, we are calling this as a positional argument. Okay, that's it. Then the second one is the keyword argument. See here, what happens in the positional argument? We have to remember the position of the arguments that we need to pass to the function. Okay, sometimes it will become tedious job. So for that purpose, Python is providing one more option that is called the keyword argument. Yeah, so argument the name. So here we can pass argument with a names. Okay, so how it is? So here while passing, what I can do here, come out of the function definition. Okay, here I'm going to assign certain names like A equal to 2, then B equal to, I'm assigning the values for the variables. Okay, so instead of passing the direct values, I will pass the names there. A, B. Keywords for that values. Okay, run. Okay, so the same. But here in the function call, we are using the keywords for those values. Okay, instead of remembering the position of the values to be sent, we can send the keywords. Okay, that is the thing. And the next one is default argument. So what are default argument? Instead of sending the values to the function, okay, in the function definition itself, we can give certain default values. In function definition, we can assign the value. Yeah? Assign the values. Okay, so let me show you. Let me define the different function. Okay, let's take it as define fun. Okay, x equal to 3, y equal to 8. Okay, so let's print. I want to add those two things, x plus y. This is the function. Okay. Here, let me call that function 1. Okay. See here, I am calling that function without the arguments. It has the parameters, but I am calling without the arguments. Will it run? Yes. Why? Because I'm giving the default values for those variables in the function definition. So since the user is not sending any values to that function, so it is making use of the default values. So even though if we after giving the default values, still we can send the values for them. Let me send 4 and 5. Run. So in that case, the default values will be overwritten by the passed arguments. You will get the passed arguments result. So that is the difference. But here there come certain cases. What are the cases? Okay. So here, so just I want to keep the y value as default, not the x. Okay. So in that case, let me call that function. Okay. So if I call, see again, here I am calling without the arguments. Let me run, you will get an error. Why? Because it has only one default, but it is expecting the value for the variable x. But we are not sending anything, right? Required one positional argument. So there we will get an error. So what I will do, let me send one value, 7. Okay, run. So then the sended argument will be assigned for this variable x. Okay, that is 7. Then y is getting the default value 8. 7 plus 8, 15 got printed. Okay, so one more cases, like I can call the same function with 2 arguments also. Okay, so in that case, you get the answer as 16 because the x value got the value 8 and the y value it's same now. Let me slightly change that 6. Okay, so now it is 14. It got overwritten with the sended parameter, that is 8 plus 6 got 14 got 20. Okay, that is the one thing. Okay, and one more, the thing we need to note here is, see, if I keep the default argument first, then this is the required argument, the positional argument. If I keep it like this, we will get an error. Okay, parameter without default follows parameter with the default. Means the default values parameter should be at the right side of the parenthesis. Okay, I cannot keep it first. If you want to keep a default values for some variable, keep it at the right side. Okay, not after the after the default argument, we should not keep any positional argument. Okay, the order need to be followed as first keep the positional argument, then you can go for the default argument. Okay, that is the important point we need to note in the case of default argument. Okay, yes, I hope you clear with this default. Then the variable length argument. Yeah. Here in real time, what happens? There comes the large function. We need to go for making the large number of. We need to send the large number of parameters for the function. In that case, instead of defining all the parameters in the function definition, Python is providing one more type of argument called the variable length argument. Okay. So number of arguments not known. Not known. Okay. And the thing is, like here, values received in the form of tuple. Okay. See here, what you can send any number of arguments for your function. Okay. Let me show you with an example. Okay. Let me define that function value of 1. Okay. Just I will keep one variable called the a. I will just keep one variable called the a. Okay. Then just I want to print that A. This is our normal function, right? Normal function. And if I want to call this function F1, so I should pass one parameter since it is expecting one parameter there. So I'm sending the 5. Okay, this becomes the required argument or the positional argument. But I want to call that F1 function. I want to call that F1 function with two values. I want to call that function with three values. I want to call that function with four values. Okay, so in that case, we can go for making this argument as the variable length argument. How we can do that? Just by keeping the symbol star before this one. Now it becomes variable length